Okie-doke. And we're doing video too, right?
Yes. So welcome back, guys, to Designing the Best You. And we have a very special guest today. This beautiful woman, Tamara, has traveled the world as a solo woman, guys, for almost the last 30 years. She's been to 76 countries to date, travels via road, waterways, you name it. I've heard so many stories, and I'm sure we're going to hear more. She's a Canadian Brit who moved to the UK from Nairobi, Kenya in 1994 and lived there for over 20 years. That's where she obtained her Chinese medicine degree too. And she now works in digital marketing after 22 years and is residing back in Canada. And guys, she has some chronic illnesses that you are going to be absolutely amazed by, that she's able to travel and everything like that. She is also a solo creator, which has been based off of her own travel experiences. So welcome, Tamara, to Designing the Best You.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Vennessa. It's awesome to be here.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and everything that's been going on here.
Yeah. Okay. So, basically when I was about 15, I started having kind of pains in my knees, and for years that kind of kept going. And I was a really top-notch athlete. Like I could have been, got a scholarship in the States for discus and javelin. And also I was really high up in like fastball, softball kind of thing, provincially and nationally. So I was a big athlete, but I sometimes have to, like, I play a whole baseball weekend, tournament, and be in bed for 4 days afterwards. But I loved it so much that I would just like take some ibuprofen and just continue. And then it kind of just kept getting worse. And then when I was about 18 or 19, they had the first like medical conference about me, because they couldn't work out what was wrong with me in Canada. And so I met, I don't know, 50.
So wait, what was, you were sore and exhausted?
Yeah, so I had kind of pain and inflammation, and I had some breathing problems, but like all my tests would come up negative, like whatever they tested me for. Yeah, so I, poked and prodded and all that. And like I said, I think I was about 18. And so they brought in about 50 specialists from, I think probably just North America. You just kind of sit in this room, they all talk about you, and then they come in two at a time and ask you basically the same questions over and over and over and all that stuff, right? So that was my first one. And then I'll talk about the traveling in a bit, but I ended up, like I said, living in England for over 20 years because I'm half British. And I got an amazing doctor there in Brighton. So I was in Brighton, England, which is on the South Coast. And they had two medical conferences about me there, one in Brighton, which had about 75, 100 doctors from all around the world. And then the second one was in London, England, which was about the same, but another 50, 75 doctors. I'm meeting these doctors who are like, oh yeah, so I just wrote a chapter about you, like this Australian specialist, just wrote a chapter about you in my book. I'm like, well, what, like, was it one page? Like, you guys haven't come up with anything in 30 years, like I'm 51 now. And this was about 10, I don't know, I guess the last one was 10, 12 years ago. So I'd had it for quite some time, right? But my one specialist in England, she was like, okay, well, you have this kind of rare type of vasculitis. So it's basically the inflammation in your blood vessels. So it's kind of like having arthritis, but in your blood. So I can get it, affects me anywhere and everywhere, right? And it can change literally hourly. So, my hand could be normalish, and then, an hour later, it could be like, 3 inches, 3 inches in swelling kind of thing. Or I get lumps on my head or nose or anywhere you have blood vessels. But they said, but it's not a typical vasculitis because I have like bits of other quite rare blood diseases combining to make my own. So I was like, well, you better call it Tamara-itis. If it better be named after me.
Yeah, that's exactly what we should call it.
Never come up with it, right? So yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. And then in the last 15 years or so, or 10 years, I guess, it started really attacking my connective tissue. So like I've had 6 surgeries on my hands already, and I have to have a few more because they've been trying to replace the tendons in my fingers, which
might as well just give you new hands. Like,
oh, I know. I've looked. I just like a head transplant. Like take my head on a new 21-year-old body. That'd be awesome.
I think all of us can relate. We're like, can we please just have a new body, right? Please. But we're so blessed to have our own bodies too. It's a gift, right?
Yeah. That's for sure. I mean, and that's the one thing I learned, especially when I was traveling in my 20s, is because I hated my body because it took away a lot from me. You know what I mean? Like I said, my athletic career. And then when I was traveling, especially my first trip, so I left Canada in 93. So I just turned 23 and no clue what I was doing. This is, 93, before the internet, cell phones, no Google Maps. You couldn't just look up something, what to do in Kenya or something like that. It was, yeah, I even have a guidebook. My friend who I left with had a guidebook, but it was just for Africa. So our plan was to go from Paris to Cape Town by land or water. And him and I kind of went our own ways in Kenya. So after about 5 months, and he took the guidebook with him, and he I was like, I got nothing.
So if any of you younger people, I mean, I grew up without the internet too, like it's not easy when you get lost and you don't have a Rand McNally map to look
No.
anything up, right? I mean, even just the basic maps, you're just like, okay, I have to go by sight. I have to go by feel. And yeah, wow.
I had to carry, do you see that map there?
Mhm.
I carried that map with me.
Oh, that's the map. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of just I guess from the equator down. It's not all of Africa, but it's a big chunk of it. Yeah, like literally maps. And then when I meet other travelers at some places, like they would, because basically the only guidebook around at the time for all of Africa was Lonely Planet, Africa on a Shoestring. So I would borrow their book and write out, like just copy their maps, because the maps for the cities and towns were great because I could find cheap accommodation that way. And then I just take notes. Otherwise I just wing it, like literally wing it and just figure it out as I went along. So yeah, traveling is so much different now to back then.
But if you think about
sure.
it, it's almost like our health too. We're kind of, especially with all these like chronic illnesses and rare diseases, like we're winging it. And to be honest, everyone, the doctors are too. Like they're doing their best. We're doing our best to like communicate our symptoms and our issues. And they're like, okay, how do we do this? What do we test for next? All those things. So we're kind of just winging that. Heck, we're winging life, aren't we?
Yep, definitely. What was that? Is it from Pretty Woman? She's like, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. Like that's
Yep.
That's fair to what we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing. When I moved to England, I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm just getting nothing from doctors, really. I mean, they did put me on one medication, which they usually use for leprosy randomly. And even people with leprosy are only supposed to be on it for a year. I've been on it since like 95. But it
does it work?
It does help. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it kind of gets less as time went on. But yeah, so when I was in England, I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to just become my own doctor. Because I learned a lot about natural health from when I was a teenager, because I was trying to figure myself out, and what I can do naturally to help myself with herbs and things like that. So yeah, I thought, you know what, when I was in England, I was like, screw this, I'm going to become my own doctor. And that's when I did my degree in Chinese medicine. It was a 4-year Bachelor of Science honors degree, which I've never worked so hard in my entire life. But I finally understood through Chinese medicine what was kind of wrong with me, much more than I ever did even to this day with Western medicine. Because even now, they still don't really know what's wrong with me. I mean, I'm lucky to be in Canada, where we have an awesome healthcare system.
Lucky duck.
Yeah, like, I was just telling you earlier, I have also just been diagnosed with COPD last month. And I had to do a pulmonary function test, and my lung function was only at 52%, which was a bit of a worry because I'm only 51.
I think you need oxygen to live.
Yeah. And then so he put me on an inhaler, which I've always been against steroids. I've never gone on steroids because just not doing it basically. But he was like, you don't have a choice right now. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I would like to breathe. That's probably a priority. So I've been on the inhaler, and then I also went from smoking 18 to 20 a day to about between like 5 and 7 now, come down to 5. And the nicotine little vape pens. So then I went this week for a CT scan and my second pulmonary function test, and it was 72% lung function. Like my specialist was like, I can't believe it. He goes, rarely have I ever seen anyone to improve that fast in that short a time. That's amazing. And, and also I give myself a couple of acupuncture treatments as well for lungs. So yeah, I'm like, so like 72 I can handle. And, we hopefully will get it better as well. Just quit the smoking altogether, which
But
is
this is all
hard.
about you empowered yourself and you educated
Yeah.
yourself and you took control. I
Yeah.
mean, we
And
can't
that's what,
always depend on someone else to, these doctors to take care of us. They've got other people to take care of too. I can't even imagine having that weight on your shoulders.
yeah, for sure. And like I said, my healthcare system here, like my team is awesome. And another thing, I moved back to Canada about 7 years ago. And for the last 6 years, I've also been getting these, it's called Ivig treatments. So Ivig is one of your white blood cells. So it kind of, because if that's the thing, it's weird. Like my body attacks itself. I mean, it's almost killed me 3 times with septicemia. Like I was seriously ill in hospital for weeks on end. And one of the septicemia, like the blood poisoning, apparently no one thought I was going to live, even me at one point. Like I actually felt my soul leave my body. Like I looked down at my body, and because I'd lost so much weight. Like I was just so sick, basically. And I had to have emergency surgery and remove like a 5-inch, it was huge, like an abscess like that from my hamstring. And then my ankle, my skin had just fallen off my ankle. Like it was like a dog had attacked my ankle. It was just like,
Wow.
yeah, it was brutal. That's probably the sickest I've ever been. But I just remember laying there and like looking down at me and me like grabbing my soul, I guess. I don't know. And just like, there's no way you've traveled the world, that you've come home to London, Ontario and die here. Are you crazy? That's not happening. Like, let's get sorted, man.
So that was like your turning points.
Well, I've had but I mean, that was just like a no way. I mean, I was only, that was in 2004. So yeah, it was only my 30s, I guess. So I was just like, no, I've lived through so much, like truck accidents and malaria and like all sorts of things traveling. There was no way that I was gonna let my body kill me.
So what have you done since then? I mean, we say you traveled all these countries and stuff like that. I mean, guys, she has all these rare conditions and she still travels. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, let's ignore COVID for a moment, but prior to that, like, tell us about some of those different adventures.
Yeah. So like a lot of my traveling has been, like I said, overland excursions. So like that Africa trip, I left with a friend, but then it was 16 months and I covered 30,000 miles by land. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the whole, like the planet's circumference, the Earth's circumference is, I know it in kilometers. So I travel at 50,000 kilometers and the Earth's circumference is 43 kilometers. So
she has done it.
that was just my first trip. I mean, talk about throwing myself with a deep end, man. Yeah, so my last trip was last year, just before COVID. So I was 50 and I went to Central America. So I went to 6 countries in Central America for about a month. And awesome. Like, so Belize and Guatemala, and then kind of cut through Honduras and El Salvador to Nicaragua and Costa Rica. So in Nicaragua, I really wanted to do to do this. It's called volcano boarding, or like volcano tobogganing, and it's the only place in the world you can do it, because basically you have to hike up this active volcano in Nicaragua.
Active. Oh, yay.
Yeah, and basically, yeah, you have this wooden board and you toboggan down it.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like exhilarating and fun and scares the crap out of you at the same time.
Yeah, it was, but honestly, the boarding down it was fine, but getting up it, because I didn't know, like my breathing had gotten bad. I just gotten sick like a week before in Guatemala with something, I don't know. So I was really sick for about a few days, and so my breathing was just really bad. And so climbing this volcano, because you can also pay $5 to get one of the local, like guys that are, between 16 and 20, probably young guys, to carry your board, because they're really actually heavy. They're probably about 10, 15 pounds, and they're quite big boards, right? And I'm like, no way.
No way.
I mean, all the girls did that basically, right? And there's about 25 of us in my little group, and everyone was like in their 20s. I was definitely by twice his age, almost twice as old as most people, but they were really cool. Very supportive, and I get along with people of all ages, really. So I got far behind them climbing this volcano because it's pretty high. And my guy, I can't remember his name right now. Let's just call him Julio right now. Sorry. So there were some really steep parts. And I was like, I can't do it. He's like, madam, just get on my back. I was like, what? He goes, I'll piggyback you. Just get on.
You're like, okay, sure.
So just like really steep little bits, right? So I'm like, okay, dude.
You invited me.
Yep. And then he'd leave like the board, the toboggan, behind, and then take me to the next little bit that wasn't as steep, then run down, get the board, and then
he got his workout in, man.
Bless him. He was such a sweetheart. So I think he had to pick me like 3 times. Like it was ridiculous. I was so embarrassed, but then I just went, you know what, screw it, because this is the only way I'm going to get to the top and not keep everyone waiting for me, because you kind of all board down together, like a couple, 2 or 3 at a time, right? And they were at the top, and I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But I think I'm very stubborn, and when I want to do something. So I was just like, well, and I had no choice. Either, like, you're on a volcano, you either go up or you go down. Like,
right.
And I knew going down on the board was going to be a lot faster, a lot easier. So just kind of continue. I think that's the motto with traveling with an illness, is like, yeah, okay, you get sick and you stay put, like just rest, stay where you are. Whenever I've been sick, and like I said, I've had probably every tropical illness under the sun as well, like malaria twice, and dysentery and giardia and all sorts.
And
right?
She keeps going, y'all.
Yeah, I know.
She keeps going.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So, and where, because I'd like to try and stay usually at local, like smaller guest houses, or even like in people's houses where they rent a room. This was like pre-Airbnb. So now you have Airbnbs. But yeah, wherever I've been, the local people have always helped me, like always looked after me. Or if there's other travelers there as well, they will too. So, that's the thing. Generally, people are kind and they have a heart, you know what I mean? So when they see a woman alone struggling, they will help you, you know what I mean? So, and that's the thing. So when you get sick, you stay put till you feel better and then continue.
When you were telling me about a story when we first were talking about, didn't you like fall into some lady's lap?
Oh yeah, that was the Central America trip. So I don't know what I got. So I was in a farm, like, and it's a little island in this lake in a beautiful area in Guatemala. And I went to the pharmacy to help her do something for me, basically. And yeah, I was talking to her. The next thing I know, luckily there was she had a little like 2-seater in the pharmacy. So the pharmacy is like open. Basically, they have like shutter doors, so it's open to the little alleyways and stuff like that. And so I'm sitting down, and next thing I know, I guess I passed out in her lap. Like I've never fainted before, right? So, I don't know.
Like I'm in a foreign country. I just passed it on some lady's lap that I've never known. And
no, who spoke a little bit of English. And I mean, I dreamt. So I must have been out for a bit because I was dreaming, right? And then I finally came to, because she was shaking me and like, senor. I finally came to, and I look up, and there's all these local women, and they wore really like colorful local clothes, right? So very colorful, but there was about 15 of them, like all looking at me super concerned. And she was shaking me, and I finally came to. I'm like, what the hell happened? And the next thing I know, one of the ladies, because luckily there was a local clinic literally right around the corner. And again, Guatemala has free healthcare.
Yes, they do.
For anyone. And so they brought a wheelchair for me, and then put me in that. And then it's like cobblestone, alleyways. So I'm on this wheelchair just to go to the clinic, and it was just hilarious. And they brought the doctor spoke English, so it was a really nice woman doctor. And she's like, what? I'm like, I don't know. I said, I have been really sick for a couple of days, so I haven't eaten or drunk that much. So I'm sure I'm dehydrated. Plus it's pretty hot there. So yeah, they gave me some food, like some cookies and some juice and stuff like that, and just laid there. And then she was like, well, I could give you an IV transfusion, like just some fluids in your system. And I was like, oh, it should be okay. Like, I'm feeling a little bit better. I mean, I did stay there for an hour or two. But yeah, just super lovely people, you know what I mean? And it cost me, I don't know, because she gave me some, because what I was trying to, I had some earrings stuck in my ear and my ears had got infected. So that was what the pharmacist was trying to help me, is to pull the earrings out because the backs had got stuck and I couldn't do it. And she managed to pull one out, but she pulled it right through my ear and the blood shot out everywhere. But that was, and then I faded shortly after, but it wasn't about the blood at all,
Yeah.
because I've dealt with so much stuff. So, but yeah, so the doctor spent like half an hour trying to get the other back off of the scalpel and everything. Oh my God. Finally got them out. I haven't worn earrings since.
I wouldn't either.
I know. So yeah, she gave me some antibiotics just in case, for my ears, if they're infected or whatever. So I just had to pay for that, which was like, I don't know, $10 or something, And I was there for 3 hours probably in total, just love and support and
And that's what
TLC,
people
I
do,
guess.
guys. So many of us with all these chronic illnesses, we're like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm in pain, I can't move, whatever else the other symptoms are. I've got, if you have IBS, you're like, I got to find a bathroom at all point in time, Crohn's, whatever it is. I mean, this woman here is like, no excuses. People are going to help wherever you're at. If you're super concerned, like I don't have it on now, but like my medical ID bracelet. So if anything does happen with one of my main conditions, people know what to do. Don't isolate yourself. So, right. I mean, Tamara has not isolated herself in any way, shape, or form. She's surrounded herself with people and experiences. I mean, how many other people out here can say that they've done all the things that you were just telling me about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro? I'm like, right. Like, who else has done that out there? I haven't. I've been to Guatemala and El Salvador, but and Jamaica and stuff and other countries, but it's like really just, I know I would definitely challenge myself first and then other people, like get out there, even if it's just going to another state or across the country or something like that, because there's going to be help in terms of medical care everywhere. It may not be the care that you are accustomed to in your own town or state, but you're going to still get care. People aren't just going to leave you on the side of the road type thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely not. And, obviously get travel insurance. But I'll tell you, compared to, I know how much healthcare costs in the States and it's ridiculous. So you're going to get probably a lot better healthcare in a lot of countries, a lot cheaper. That's for sure. And if you have a noticeable disability or illness, like my hands, right? Like that, they started about 10 years ago. And when I've been in India or wherever I've been, right, like people are, they clock that, right? And so they will kind of even ask you, do you need help? Like, are you okay? And even if you can't speak, lots of people speak English now, even if it's just a little bit of words or whatever, right?
And guess what? Now we have phones that you could do translators
and translate, exactly. Like I didn't have any of that. I came up with I call it my travel sign language. Because in Africa, like a lot of the countries I would go to, like say Uganda, they have 40 different languages.
Yeah, you're like, which one do you speak? Can you please tell me? And I don't know how to even ask you in that language.
So I just learned Swahili. Now I got to learn another, come on. But if you can learn at least please, thank you, where's the bathroom? Just 5 basic things, right? Or mine was how much is a beer? That's always important. I think one of my favorite countries for the languages, which is Arabic. So when you say, if you ask for one beer, it's bira bira.
No.
Yeah, beer is one and then bira is beer. So bira bira.
Nice.
It's easy to remember.
So what, and I'm sure that, we all go through this as strong as we can, physically or mentally be, what were some mindset issues that you had to get yourself through in order to make these expeditions, these adventures, just more fun with a set of conditions?
Before I went, or
just when you're traveling and stuff, because a lot of times you're like, oh man, I can't get up and do this, or man, I can't breathe. Should I really do this or not? What mentally would push you through to just give some of the people listening some hope and encouragement that they can do other things outside of their own home and environment?
Yeah, I would say basically one step at a time. It literally, when I was climbing Kilimanjaro, okay, do you know that song? Is it REM? That's that song, Everybody Hurts.
Oh yeah, who is that by?
Everybody, is it REM?
I can't even think of it now. I'm gonna wake up at 2 a.m. and be like,
Yeah,
What was
that's that. Well, that was the song that was going through my head on loop when I was doing the last ascent up Kili, because it's so cold. It's like minus 40 Celsius as well, right? You leave at 2 a.m. to do the final climb, and it was a 6-day hike. But I was just saying, because I was telling Vennessa, because those are 3 of my last episodes on my podcast that's just come out is about climbing Kili, so it kind of was fresh in my brain. And it was hard, but it was literally, and there's another saying in Swahili, which means, I think it's, yeah, pole pole, which just means slowly, one, literally one step at a time. And that's all I kept thinking too. Just, yeah, one step at a time. And it's the same thing with traveling, especially as a solo woman with a chronic illness is, yeah, I would say, kind of, yeah, practice almost like even just go to in your hometown or city, go to a restaurant. Well, COVID, damn COVID.
Well, I mean, things
Yeah.
are starting to open up. So, I mean,
Well,
you
I'm
could
in
try.
Ontario. We're in our
Yeah.
third bloody lockdown in Canada.
Gosh.
So it's driving us insane. But pretend no COVID. Yeah, you go to a restaurant or even just do a Airbnb or a weekend away, even in your own town, like, or the next one over, and get a feel for it. Because trust me, after 30 years of traveling on my own and so many trips, like I said, 76 countries, I still get a little bit nervous before I leave. Still, like my central America, and I know what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah, after all those countries, yeah.
Yeah. So I know what I have to do. And like I said, nowadays you could literally book everything online before you go. Like it's so much easier traveling now to when I traveled in 93 and 98. Like 98, I went from Amsterdam to Kathmandu by myself by land. Wow. So I was in Iran, like I was in, Turkey for my second time, so East Turkey, but I spent a month in Iran. I spent 3 months in Pakistan, India to Nepal, and I had to fly to Thailand because it was basically impossible to go by land at the time. And I've gone around Southeast Asia a couple of times for 5 months each time. I've lived and traveled through India. Like India's like my third home. Like 3.5 years I've spent in India.
Wow.
Now India is crazy. Like there's no other place.
They're going through crazy now too.
I feel so bad for the man. It's brutal. Well, there you go with having another, like a crappy leader. But anyways, yeah, India, I wouldn't maybe recommend India as the first country I go to as a solo female.
But trying anything different than what you're accustomed to doing.
Yeah.
That challenges your, I mean, I'm talking to myself too, like challenges your mind and challenges your body too. Let's say like, for example, I usually would lift weights and do a little bit of yoga for working out. I started doing dancing and that scared the crap out of me because I ain't coordinated. I'm this little white girl that does not dance well, but it's opened up more of my mind than anything. And it just challenges you in new ways, just like traveling to different countries. I mean, you have to look at more of the positives of it. Like, wow, who am I going to meet? What am I going to see that's different? I mean, even any times, like she said, like go across your town, you're going to see different ways, take a different route. Right. All those different things that are going to challenge you.
Yeah, exactly. Like baby steps, you know what I mean? You don't have to be crazy like me and just do, okay, I'll just do this ridiculously epic trip, but work your way up for sure. And just forgot what I was going to say. To my thing. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it'll come back to me. I can't think about it right now, but I was going to say, don't worry about getting, I remember now. For motivation. Okay, you're going to be sick wherever you are in the world, right? Because that's just what your body is, right? So 2 is, love your body and accept it for its strengths and weaknesses. But why not be sick on a beach or up a mountain or in the jungle?
Amen, girl.
Rather than being in your house or apartment and getting depressed because you're not doing anything,
I mean, take your favorite blankie if you need it, for the comfort.
For sure. And now you have cell phones, like you can text and call it, like, you know what I mean? You're not, and the worst case scenario, something really bad happens or you can't handle it, you come home, like, that's it. You know what I mean? So, but what I was thinking about, I get nervous before I leave. Well, honestly, as soon as I step out my door with my backpack, or now, like and I've always traveled with a backpack. This time I'm like, nope, I'm just going to bring a little carry-on on wheels. So I didn't even have a backpack.
Exert the energy, make the backpack do the work.
So exactly. So you can do that. Like get a little, if you bring carry-on, because trust me, people bring so much, like depends on what your trip. If you're going for 1 week to Jamaica or something like that, and it's in an airplane, you know what I mean? But like I said, I've done trips like that, short little week trips or 2 weeks with friends and family, partners, whatever. But if you want to do more of exploring, yeah, just bring a carry-on. You'll save on the cost of baggage for one, and you'll never ever wear as many clothes as you bring.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Even just going for a week somewhere, like
I know.
bring
I
your
usually
deodorant,
bring
your
more for a
toothbrush,
week than I do for 6 months. Yeah, it's
right?
ridiculous. Yeah. It's like, oh my God.
No, so I love, I
Yeah,
mean, guys, I love
yeah, on
this.
the wheels rolling, so you don't have to carry it. You know what I mean? You roll that
Mhm.
sucker with you, and just have a little day pack. That's what I recommend for when you're out doing your day stuff. So
Mhm.
bring your own like water bottle. And what I do with Central America, which is awesome, they have these like filter straws.
Hmm.
So it kills everything. It cost me like, I don't know, $10 or something, and it's good for
Wow.
500 gallons. So you don't have to buy any plastic water bottles, which is great because we have way too much plastic on our beautiful
Mhm.
planet. So yeah, you can get them on Amazon. I think they're around $10, and water filter. And then when you have your own water bottle too. So yeah, there you go. You can just fill
Huh.
up the water by the taps, and it kills everything. So
That's amazing. Because I mean,
that's
we talk about the toxins and stuff that go into our body, and especially with chronic illnesses, that's so incredibly important. Look at that. We all learned something today.
yeah. Well, that you can even use them for at home, because I
At
know a
home,
lot of
yeah.
water supplies, like I have a water filter, like it just attached to my sink, which is great. It was only about $100 or something like that, and it clears out everything, all the crap out of my drinking water at home. But on the road, this was great. Like honestly, I was like, wow, I'll always travel with one of these, especially when I'm going to second or third world countries, if that's BC or
Absolutely.
not, whatever.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was, I mean, you can even drink out of a river with these straws. Like
Gosh, that's
it's
amazing.
crazy. Yeah, so it's
Now my
awesome.
little research mind is going to go like crazy and
Yeah,
try and look at these things. That's awesome. Well,
yeah,
Tamara, where can people find you to learn more
yeah.
about all of your experiences?
Well, hopefully, maybe I will. I mean, that's one of the reasons I put out my podcast. It was basically to inspire other women that they can solo travel, but also with people with chronic illnesses or disabilities. So my podcast is called Many Roads Traveled, 2 L's in travel.com. And my first series basically takes you on that African trip I did, that 30,000 mile African trip. So every episode is about one destination, and then I give you up to date tips about that destination at the end of the episode. So in case you want to do it yourself, I'm giving you some tips what to do when you're there, or what to do. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully, yeah, I inspire you, because like I said, that was in 1993, 94. It was 16 months, that trip. It took me literally a year to get from Paris to Cape Town, and then I decided I was going to hitchhike by myself back up through South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, back Mozambique, back up to Kenya, which was another craziness, because literally everyone who picked me up were men, and they all said to me, "Are you crazy? What are you doing?"
You're like, oh, I kind of am, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys can find, I mean, she has so many episodes and loves to share this stuff. And she's got a blog that she's got and website and all these things, guys. We're going to put all of that in the show notes for you, because she's just a rock star. And we want you guys to learn so much more from her, that like literally anything is possible. Like she said, like one step at a time.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be sick, why not be sick? Like she said, on a beach, in a mountain, in another country, laying on
Whatever
somebody's
floats your
lap,
boat.
whatever, going up an active volcano, something,
Yeah.
right? Because if you look at the end of your life, like, what do you want people to say about you? What do you want to have had experienced? You don't want to have, lots of regrets or anything like that. You want to be able to enjoy the life that we've been given. Just because a lot of us have diseases or illnesses or disabilities does not mean that we are less than anyone who doesn't.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
thank you, Tamara, so much for joining us.
Oh,
And
pleasure.
it was such a pleasure hearing your stories. And guys, like I said, go check her out again on her podcast, Many Roads Traveled, and we'll link that all in the show notes. All right.
Awesome.
Until next time, guys, keep on designing the best you.